G'day everybody, Simon here, Explosive Action. I am back for a short video this time. We're going to take a look at two OG 1985 thrash classics I just got into the collection. Let's go. So it's been some time since I've been able to show some original press thrash metal on this channel. There was a couple of months ago, a few months ago now, I had a really good run of probably 20 or so records I got in. I had to do 3 updates in a row, and that was fantastic. But since then, it's not been a huge amount that I've been looking for. There's been a lot out there, but I've actually hit a point where my maximum want list is really shrinking, which is really good. There's always going to be things out there to find, of course. There's going to be unknown gems that I won't know until I trip over them one day and go, that's an interesting cover. But in terms of knocking off things from my list, this is two. And after this, there's not that many that are maximum want list kind of OG presses that I need. But we're going to go over two today that should be incredibly familiar to everybody watching this channel. The first one, as I said, these are both from 1985, and they are both original presses. The first one, finally have Exodus Bonded by Blood, a classic, a immature but youthful sounding album. And yeah, I've had this on a repress CD for probably 15 years, and look, that just simply wasn't cutting it. I don't want a repress CD of something like this. I need to have an original vinyl. So here we are finally. So like I said, 1985, of course, and the band was demoing since 1982. Infamously, of course, we have the Metallica Kirk Hammett connection here. He was one of the two founders of the band, came up with the actual name, Exodus, and was on the first two demos, but none of those songs appear on this album. Some of the riffs, apparently, were ported across to Metallica lately, and you can still, though, hear some influence in here. We'll get to that. But yeah, look, for me, a lot of the thrash bands, I want a lot of their stuff. But for Exodus, this is all I want. I'm not phased by anything that came after this. I'm happy here. It's a bit like Anthrax for me. Like Fistful of Metal, there's my Anthrax. Exodus, Bonded by Blood, and we're good. Particularly this opening track. It is loose and unhinged. The title track, Bonded by Blood. It's barely held together. Like, it's just a little bit of craft glue and some sticky tape and some chewing gum. And if any of that falls off, then the whole thing's coming off the rails. It's great. Paul Bailoff's vocals are squealed and shouted through the whole album. He has clearly no idea what he's doing, and it doesn't matter. It's amazing. And it has poor rhyming in it. We all know this one. There's blood upon the stage, bang your head against the stage. I mean, it's craptacular. That's what that is. And it's what somebody who's 23 years old comes up with when they're writing their first demo in 1983. It's fantastic. The rabid thrasher that comes after it, though, we start pulling it together a bit more with we have Exodus and Then There Were None, which are great tracks, but I think A Lesson in Violence is really where we're heading to on this one. That is one of the staples, I think, of thrash metal, A Lesson in Violence. But I really dig the kind of the new wave of British heavy metal going into speed metal sound of the track after it, Metal Command. That for me is one of the highlights on this album, and a great way to close off side A. But then, and this is what I don't know if others don't agree with me on this, but side B, we open with Piranha. Now, that is a tight, menacing staccato kind of riff. Actually feels a bit Slayerish. The solo on that actually sounding like they were listening to Kirk when he was doing the demos. There's a lot of his style in the way that solo was it played, at least. I know he's not in the band, but he's clearly that. His influence of the lead guitar seems to have been infused in this to some degree. That's a great track. No Love, that comes after it. Very tasteful acoustic guitar, dual acoustic guitar little intro there. And they probably did that in a whole on. There's 23-year-olds listening to this going, what the hell is this? I want it to be Bonded by Blood, and now, and then it just kicks in, very fight fire with fire, that kind of thing. It was probably designed to break the metalheads of the era, but it stomps in with a real evil chugging riff. Fantastic sounding thing. Um, the bridge in the middle has some real quality, almost Mustaine style guitar. I really listened to that going, that's a little bit level above. I thought that was really, really good. And we have some more hilariously immature lyrics like, took your life, I don't feel bad, bored to live in hell, died for nothing, slow decay, your body starts to smell. I mean, that's just priceless stuff, okay? Um, Deliver us to evil. Now that's another one of my favorites on here. Probably the best composed track on the album. Um, like a whole bunch of switch ups, interesting progressions and things on it. Probably the most sinister song as well on the album. Low key for me, side B doesn't have it doesn't have Bonded by Blood. It doesn't have a lesson in violence like the hits. I reckon side B is the superior side on this album. I don't know what you guys think. I'd be curious to know what you guys think about that. But you know, often in this time, this period, the side B, that's why they call them B tracks, because you kicked off with your best stuff on side A. And the title track is probably one of the best tracks ever from Exodus. But B, the deep cuts, oh, there's some crackers on here. And then Strike of the Beast. Yeah, that is how you end Bonded by Blood. Strike of the Beast. It is an absolutely furious track. Absolutely love it. Fantastic way to close the album. So this is the first UK press out on Music for Nations from 1985. It came out on Torrid Records, I think in collaboration with Combat, also the same year, and Bonsai, classic Bonsai out of Canada. So one of 3 original vinyl presses for the world of 1985. As you can see too, you've probably been staring at the whole time, is this copy is signed. That's how I bought it. I didn't get this signed myself, but best I can work out, we've got, I believe that is Tom Hunting. That's Gary Holt, pretty sure. And we've got Rob, what's his name? Rob Dukes, who was the singer from sort of like 2009, 10, 11, that kind of era. I think this is Lee Altus, who was also in that era. And I'm not too sure who this one is. So it kind of dates it to me as somebody going to see them on like a 2010 era show and getting it signed. Yeah, if you know who this could be, do let me know. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty confident on these two, and that one's obvious. These two, maybe not, but I do think this one is Lee Altus. So anyway, nice to have it signed. I don't particularly mind or care or add value to it because it is. If it had original vocalist signature on here, that would have dated it back a bit and might have been a little bit more interesting. But either way, it's cool to have it signed. And we'll take a look inside at what I've got. If there was an inner, I don't have one, so I don't know if there was one, but who knows? We do get the record, which is, as I said, the Music for Nations press, MFN 44. It's in, BG plus, just about condition, a little bit marked. Plays really well. Give another bath. A little bit crackly at the start, but it's all good, and the cover's in good nick overall. So there you go. Look, Exodus, Bonded by Blood. Really happy to add this original press to my collection. The next one is one that I've wanted to switch from CD to original vinyl again for the longest time. It's not particularly difficult to find, this one. But in Australia, in good condition and for the right price, it's just not been working out to my favor. I saw one in a record fair a couple of years ago. The guy wanted well past what it was worth, and it was in terrible condition. And that just seems to be the theme when I've been trying to find this one. But I found it on Discogs. Actually, both of these records came from the same seller, but about a month apart. And I found them on Discogs. But you know how it goes with Discogs when you're buying a used thing and then you send the seller a message saying, could I see photos of the item? And there's no way for them to send a photo, so they've got to email you. Once they've emailed you, you're outside of Discogs, and you can start negotiating a bit better. Well, I did that for both of these. So I got this one for a good price. I am very, very happy to have Possessed 7 Churches. Yes, I mean, this is such a... I cannot have an OG metal collection on vinyl and not have this. This was just... It was getting stupid at this point. Like I said, I already had the CD, and this was not a reissue. This was the old Price Killers Roadrunner CD, which was the first CD press, I believe, coming out in, I don't know, probably late 80s. Doesn't actually say. It says 85 for the copyright on the back here. But yeah, probably, like 88, 89, or maybe even 1990. I'm not too sure when the Price Killers were. But doesn't matter anymore. Now have the vinyl. Classic, classic Death Thrash debut from Possessed here, Jeff Becerra's band. And man, how foundational are we talking with this thing? We can talk about what it is, and we might get to that at the end, but how foundational is this album? Absolutely love it, always have. From the opening track, The Exorcist, which, when I first heard that, I'm like, that's playing Tubular Bells. I was just blown away. It's like the audacity, perhaps, of just ripping off some Mike Oldfield. But hey, because at that time, I hadn't heard Possessed, but my dad was a big Mike Oldfield fan, so I was very, very aware of Tubular Bells. I have my own copy of that now. So hearing that, I'm like, hang on, I've heard this before, and it's not been on a metal album, so that was cool. But then that track, and this, I love The Exorcist. The Exorcist for me is my favorite Possessed track. And it's such a great way to open the album. Not just for that bit. It's for there's a guitar riff, a lead guitar riff in this thing that 110% inspired the Destroyer 666 Unchained the Wolves. It is this frenetic, tremolo, nasty, these days we would call it a black thrash riff. And it is fantastic. And listening to it again on the vinyl, I'm just like, yeah, that was clearly an inspiration for Destroyer. So good. 12 years difference between that and their album. But anyway, the second track, Pentagram, it slows it down. It's probably where you start to hear that death metal sound a bit more because it's chuggier, a bit more of evil atmosphere in it because they've slowed it down a bit. But Burning in Hell, we'll flip over here. Burning in Hell on side A. That one's back being even faster thrash than the first track. With some fun sort of rototom rolls. I love it. Little guitar licks to end each phrase that sound like the kind of stuff Morbid Angel would do on Altars and Blessed a few years later. So yeah, you can get some connections there for sure. Trey was clearly listening to this album. Then Evil Warriors, which definitely has some Evil Invaders sound to it. I'm getting a lot of Razor from that track. For sure, some a bit more speed metal sound in it. Really good track. And then the title track, Seven Churches, has a real crawling riff in it that is just fantastic. Has a sweeping, like a sweep picking, I'm assuming, guitar kind of like there's a lead in there, and it's sort of like I'm not a guitarist, but it sounds like sweep picking, or it's just up and down the octave over and over, like that kind of thing. Sounds so good. There's a little bridge of that. Fantastic closing track on this album. Then side B kicks in with some nasty tremolo on Satan's Curse. Guitarist Mark Toraro, I think, and Larry Lalonde, who, as we all know, went on to Blind Illusion, and now, of course, is in Primus. Some killer riffs on this track, and the album as a whole. But yeah, on this track, some great riffs. The second track on here, Holy Hell, is a good example of what seems to be a little bit of filler at start, particularly the drums. They're kind of boring. It's just sort of rolling double kicks the whole thing. But it's being held together with these really great guitar bridges. It's all about bridges in this thing. Like there's riffs, and then between the verses, or before they get into like another big section somewhere, there's always these little bridges that they do, and they keep it really interesting. So yeah, that was a good way to elevate that particular track. Twisted Minds sounds like pure Show No Mercy Slayer to me. Mid-paced, chunky riffs, but evil atmosphere and a lot of double kick in that one. Fallen Angel, following that, that one feels more Hell Awaits. The influence is not that far away to my ears, but maybe the timing isn't right. It's got giant church bells and things in it, making that Seven Churches sound. But Hell Awaits only came out 6 months before this, so yeah, if it was a clear inspiration, it's probably not. It's probably just coincidence. Probably just a bit more Show No Mercy and just general evil thrash metal sound, but you can definitely hear it in hindsight. Then we get on to death metal. The track is called Death Metal, and definitely one of the reasons when people have the spirited "is this a thrash or death metal" conversation, they go, "No, it says death metal. It's got to be death metal." But, like, yeah, I suppose, yeah, sure. And that track itself, when you listen to it, particularly with the name in mind, you're like, you could slide this across the Scream Bloody Gore and people wouldn't know the difference. This particular track, you just push it across, put Chuck's name on it. I think, yeah, okay, you've got an argument on that one for sure. It's a short, rapid burst of just nasty, thrashy death metal. Does exactly what it says on the name, and definitely did set a bit of a standard, bit of a template, I think, for stuff that we would get following it. So, which takes us back to what is this? Is it thrash? Is it death metal? Do we give a shit? Look, it's the eternal debate of the modern age. Some people are firmly in one camp or the other. Some people are a bit like me and just go, whatever. For me, it's not even something I really think about. It came in the same time as the Exodus. It sounds more Slayerish than it does Morbid Angel. It's an original 1985 press. I'm chucking in with the Thrashers, and that's the end of the conversation for me. It's just joining Exodus and Slayer in those bins, and it's not joining, Morbid Angel and Asphyx over here in the death metal section. Well, that's what I've done. So, you guys do what you want to do. But yeah, classic old press here. We've got a $16.99 sticker on it from I don't know where or when. And we get the inner, which is bursting through a little bit, which is slightly annoying, but it's okay. You get your thrash collage, which is fantastic, and your lyrics. Awesome. And we get, pull it out, pressing, which this one is the Roadrunner press. So the Euro one, also in '85, and it's another case where we had a Banzai out of Canada. Forget who the US one was. Don't think I wrote that down, but Canada had the Banzai press. So yeah, again, just many variations around the world for your original press of Possessed, Seven Churches, classic. So there we go, two classic 1985 thrash original presses. That's all I'm showing you today, but I think they're really worth showing, and rather than waiting for me having more to show, I think this is good enough, and you can have a short video for once in your life. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out this guy. Check out this guy. I'll see you all next time.